First, we're going to cover some international news.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says tens of thousands of people may have been killed in the city of Mariupol. Zelensky said Russia completely destroyed the city and burned it to ashes.
Mariupol lies destroyed. Tens of thousands have been killed there, and still, the Russians won't end their offensive. They want to make an example out of Mariupol as a city ruin.
Speaking before South Korean lawmakers, he asked for military assistance. So far, South Korea has given Ukraine about $800,000 worth of non-lethal equipment like bulletproof helmets and medical kits. Seoul can only provide limited amount of lethal weapons to Ukraine since North and South Korea are still technically in a state of war.
A DHL cargo jet slid off the runway and crashed while landing at San Jose International Airport in Costa Rica. The Boeing 757 took off from Juan Santa Maria Airport, but turned around after detecting a failure in the hydraulic system. Video showed the jet slowly losing control and going off the runway. The aircraft broke into two pieces, creating a large cloud of smoke. The airport was immediately shut down, impacting hundreds of flights. No injuries were reported. Both pilots were taken to the hospital for observation.
French President Emmanuel Macron is facing Marine Le Pen in the second round of the country's presidential election. Le Pen is the daughter of the far-right presidential candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen. Macron is seeking to be the first French president to be re-elected since Jacques Chirac in 2002. Macron beat Le Pen 5 years ago, but experts suggest that a second contest between the two would be a closer race in 2017.
2 out of 10 eligible Mexican voters cast ballots Sunday on whether their president should end his 6-year term midway or continue to the end. Lorenzo Cordova is president of the National Electoral Institute. Estimates that 90% of voters want López Obrador to remain in office. In the past, only 7% of voters who participated in referendums didn't support former presidents.
Once a week, people go to the Boomtown Brewery for the vegan playground events where vendors sell food, lotions, and jewelry. Our reporter Natalie Sierra was there.
Vegans and non-vegans come together at Vegan Playground weekly to enjoy food, drinks, and art. Tuya Leatherwood is here for the first time with her mother.
It's cute. It's really holistic. I really vibe with that. They have great price. They have good options for people. I love the copper jewelry station, and I love the oils and the butters.
The night market has 25 vegan vendors, food trucks, and a DJ. A variety of jewelry, clothes, oils, and skin lotions are also sold. Diana Colmenar owns Vegan Playground. She says she wanted to bring the community together.
I really wanted to make it fun and lighthearted and a little bit different than most vegan events out there.
Tom Ognebeni of Devi's Donuts says he likes the people here.
I love just in general coming together with other vegans, like-minded people, having great vegan food, and just having some fun.
Some non-vegans enjoyed the food as well. Chris Santizo says he felt very welcome.
My friends invited me for some vegan food. I'm a total meat eater, but I'm open to new possibilities.
The Vegan Playground takes place every Wednesday night from 5 to 9 p.m. here at the Boomtown Brewery. Reporting from Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Natalie Sierra.
President Biden nominated a new ATF chief and then proposed legislation to stop the use of ghost guns. Ghost guns are privately made firearms that don't have serial numbers. They're increasingly being used in violent crimes. Biden says his new proposed regulations would save lives. Congress has stood in the way of most gun control legislation for the past decade. Gun lobbyist groups vow to fight the regulation.
A radical environmental group says it wants people to puncture car tires as a way to combat climate change. The group Adbusters used Twitter to give step-by-step directions on how to puncture tires. They're targeting SUVs in wealthy neighborhoods, hoping to hurt the automotive industry. Many people responded on Twitter saying the practice is dangerous. Adbusters says they'll non-violently escalate their methods to fight climate change. Twitter says this is abusive behavior and it's been used to harass and intimidate.
Amazon workers in New York City voted to form the company's first U.S. union. Now, Amazon wants a do-over election. The company filed 25 objections with the National Labor Relations Board for an appeal. Amazon says the NLRB's regional office unfairly oversaw the election and helped pro-union side. Among the claims, Amazon says that the agency failed to adequately staff the polls and it reduced the number of employees needed to work the election. Amazon has 2-week extension to file proof supporting their objections to the vote.
A SpaceX capsule arrived at the International Space Station. It's carrying 3 paying customers and a former NASA astronaut. Former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Algira is commanding the mission. The other passengers are Israeli businessman Atan Siba, Canadian investor Mark Pathy, and realtor Larry Connor. The mission is launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida Friday. This is the first leg of the 10-day mission.
Walmart is raising pay for their long-haul truck drivers to between $95,000 and $110,000 a year. Walmart is struggling to fill the demand for truck drivers. The truck driver shortage is hurting supply chains for many stores. 70% of American freight is moved on trucks. Other companies are raising their pay for truck drivers as well.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk said he won't be joining the board of Twitter after all. He recently became the tech company's largest single shareholder and pledged to join the board. Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal tweeted the news. Agrawal said that Musk didn't have a reason for the reversal. Musk was scheduled to hold a question and answer session with Twitter employees this week. However, the event was canceled.
CSUN hosted an electric car show on campus emphasizing the importance of sustainability. I stopped by the event to learn more. Automakers Electromechanica and Porsche were all at the electric vehicle car show hosted by CSUN's Sustainability Department and the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. The show promotes the importance of electric vehicles for the environment. Electromechanica's Hans Heilman explains.
With an electric vehicle, not only are you reducing smog emissions, and you are saving the environment by not having as much CO2 emissions.
Congress approved $7.5 billion to fund EV charging stations nationwide. Zach Jennings' company Chargy sells EV chargers to businesses, schools, and apartment complexes. He thinks that the transition from gas to electric needs to be made sooner.
People have this misconception that EVs are difficult or it's hard to have the range to go and have a normal driving experience. But if you have the infrastructure in place and you do have a vehicle that's equivalent price of a gas vehicle, but with all the benefits of an EV.
Porsche, which manufactures mostly gas vehicles, released their first all-electric car, the Porsche Taycan. Porsche dealer Scott Stanley says that he's seen a higher demand for EVs.
We've had a wide variety of demographics coming into Porsche, people getting their first Porsche, being an electric car, and some people even their first electric car.
With gas prices on the rise in California, so are the sale of electric vehicles. California is looking to ban the manufacturing of gas vehicles by the year 2035. Reporting from Northridge for Valley View News, I'm Elizabeth Campos.
When we come back, a Steelers quarterback dies after being struck by a dump truck. Also, Johnny Depp's lawsuit against Amber Heard begins with jury picks. Stay with us.
First, we're going to stop by Studio B with Dominique Silva for some international news.
The bodies of at least 20 people who were apparently executed were found in the streets of Bucha near the Ukrainian capital. The images were shot by Agence France Presse on Saturday. This was the day Ukraine declared the town liberated from Russian troops. The details surrounding the civilian deaths haven't been confirmed. Bucha faced 5 weeks of near constant firefights. Town officials and human rights groups blamed the deaths on departing Russian forces. Ukrainian President Zelensky wants the killings investigated. President Joe Biden called the acts allegedly committed by Russian forces in Bucha a war crime. He's thinking of placing more sanctions on Russia.
We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight, and we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
Graphic images from Bucha and other parts of Ukraine support the idea that Vladimir Putin may have committed war crimes. Images show hundreds of bodies on Ukrainian streets. At least 150 people were accounted for. However, right now, many think there isn't enough evidence to support a war crimes case. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that their footage obtained was fake. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the State Department will document any more attacks made by Russian forces. A landslide killed at least 14 people, including 7 children in southeastern Brazil. Days of heavy rains triggered record flooding, causing the landslide. A father of 7 and his children between the ages of 2 and 17 were killed. Another child was rescued and transported to a hospital. At least 4 other people were rescued with non-life-threatening injuries. More than 22 neighborhoods were flooded. 71 families were displaced. This isn't the first time that this has happened, though. In early February, at least 24 people died and more than 1,500 were displaced after a landslide in the same area. China is deploying thousands of military personnel in Shanghai to give mandatory COVID tests to 25 million residents. The plan requires everyone to be tested next week. Shanghai reported a record 9,000 cases on Sunday. The government is increasing its mandatory lockdowns, testing, and isolation policies. In some cases, because of COVID, children had to be separated from their parents. Their latest outbreak placed Shanghai at the center of China's battle with the virus. The European Union plans to fight pollution caused by mass-marketed fast fashion. The EU wants fast fashion to contain a minimum amount of recycled fibers by 2030. They also want to ban the destruction of unsold fast fashion products. The EU body says it seeks to limit the release of microplastics into the environment while improving global labor conditions in the garment industry. Such changes will bring big shifts in the garment industry in order to keep prices down. Almost 3/4 of all clothing sold in the EU is imported. In addition, the EU also wants many luxury brands to create standards for sustainable fashion. That's all for me in international news. Back to you in the studio, Ruby.
Some people in LA are also trying to cut down on textile waste. Last semester, our reporter Cynthia Puga spoke with one textile crafter who's trying out one unique way to decrease waste from fast fashion.
Fast fashion is one of the biggest contributors to the planet's pollution. An LA textile crafter says she's been dedicated to finding a solution and already has a project in the works.
Trying to introduce mycelium, which is mushroom, basically, to the clothing, and so it's been found like that some kind of mushrooms eat plastic.
El Paso explains how the white mycelium forms from the oyster mushrooms and begins to digest clothes made from nylon, polyester, and synthetic fibers, all of which are considered forms of plastic. Oyster mushrooms are edible. They can be found at grocery stores. CSUN professor and fungi expert David Bermudez says this mushroom is the best type to use for this kind of experiment.
Because the oyster mushroom is in a special category of mushrooms that can degrade things that a lot of other fungi can't.
El Paso says she wants to continue working on projects to find a solution to textile waste. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Cynthia Puga.
Tesla reported an increase in car sales despite logistic problems, and a shortage of computer chips forced them to scale back production. The company recorded selling 310,000 cars in the first quarter. Sales at other automakers like General Motors took a big hit due to supply chain problems. Tesla told Wedbush Securities that their production and sales output were better than feared.
Alaska Airlines canceled more than 100 flights after pilots held informational pickets or walkouts. The walkouts took place across the U.S. pilots in a 3-year contract negotiation deadlock with the airline. FlightAware, a flight tracking website, shows that Alaska Airlines canceled 15% of its operations, while American Airlines and Southwest Airlines canceled 4% of their flights. Alaska Airlines said in a statement that 12,000 customers were affected by the cancellations. The statement, however, had no mentions of the pilot walkout.
With electric car sales on the rise, Hertz is stocking up on the cars while they still can. Swedish electric car company Polestar agreed to sell 65,000 electric cars to Hertz in the next 5 years. Hertz already bought 100,000 cars from Tesla in October. The company is ordering the Polestar 2, a smaller, more compact car with a range of 270 miles. Hertz will make the Polestars available in Europe this spring. They'll roll out in North America and Australia later this year.
More than 680,000 SUVs are being recalled by General Motors. The Chevrolet Equinox from 2014 to 2015 and the GMC Terrain vehicles could have malfunctioning windshield wipers. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says 1% of cars are subject to this malfunction. The NHTSA says they'll send car owners notices about the recall on May 2nd. Repairs and replacements will be free of charge.
A freelance florist from Los Angeles is raising funds through her side business, Flowers and Resistance, to help aid people in Afghanistan. Valley View News reporter Vanessa Garcia explains.
At the downtown Los Angeles flower market, freelance florist Farah Wallahi begins her mornings buying flowers for her side business called Flowers and Resistance. Wallahi started making flower arrangements to support her father's nonprofit. The Hand-to-Hand Sadaka group sends all donated money to aid people in Afghanistan. Wallahi donates 50% of her flower proceeds to the nonprofit. She says her Afghan heritage inspires her floral designs.
I like to go for anything that even looks remotely Middle Eastern. Tulips are the national flower of Afghanistan, so I always try to incorporate one or two if I can.
Wallahi says donations from her business and the nonprofit help volunteers with the support they need.
Everything is important. Medical assistance, groceries, shelter, blankets, food, the building of water wells, encouragement of literacy, of building of schools, like all of that is going through the nonprofit.
Wallahi says she considers herself an activist, but a humanitarian above all.
I want people to be able to separate politics and activism from just being a good human being.
Wallahi's father's nonprofit Hand-to-Hand Sadaka group can be found online for more information. Reporting from Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Vanessa Garcia.
When we come back, we'll hear about the Grammy winners. Also, Tiger Woods might not compete in the 2022 Masters. Stay with us.